Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most brilliant, invisible, and highly engineered spaces in modern retail. We are pulling back the curtain on the deliberate psychological engineering behind the world's most famous furniture store layout. Now, you might think you're just navigating a big box to grab some affordable flat-pack shelves, but the reality? Your entire journey has been meticulously mapped out for you.
Okay, let's be totally honest for a second. Have you ever walked into IKEA needing exactly one thing? Maybe a desk lamp or, a pack of AA batteries? And somehow, 2 hours later, you find yourself pushing a cart filled with throw pillows, a bag of scented candles, and for some reason, a giant stuffed shark? You feel a little tired, definitely a bit confused, and you probably couldn't find the exit if your life depended on it. Well, I'm here to tell you, you didn't get lost by accident. Your confusion and all those extra purchases sitting in your cart are the direct result of a highly refined, multi-billion-dollar psychological experiment.
Let's just dive into the sheer scale of this for a moment. To put things into perspective, we are talking about over 44.6 billion euros in global revenue in 2024 alone, and that's fueled by roughly 700 million annual store visits across more than 60 countries. I mean, that is absolutely staggering. This isn't just some quirky Swedish brand getting lucky. This is rock-solid proof that their invisible psychological system works on a massive global scale. They've essentially perfected a formula that completely overrides your typical shopping habits, and well, the numbers absolutely prove it.
Section 1. The Engineered Maze. So how do they actually do it? Well, what you experience as a disorienting, seemingly endless loop is actually a highly calculated and incredibly profitable business model. Every wrong turn you think you're taking, every extra aisle you have to walk down, it was explicitly designed to manipulate how you move and what you see. Think about a traditional furniture store. It uses an open floor plan. You walk in, see the sofas, walk straight over to them, and leave in about 20 to 30 minutes, right? But IKEA, they use what retail experts call a racetrack layout. It's a forced, one-way path with virtually no clear exits. They literally do not want you in and out quickly. This design traps you, forcing a 2 to 3 hour visit because you have to physically walk through almost every single department before you can leave. Let's map out exactly what this trap looks like, because it happens in 5 distinct physical stages. First, the forced path pulls you in, instantly removing any direct shortcuts. Second, you're guided through the showroom, where furniture is displayed in these beautifully staged rooms. Third, and this is crucial, just as you start getting tired, you hit the halfway point, meatballs. It's a strategic refueling station. Fourth, you descend into the marketplace, which is an absolute gauntlet of small, cheap impulse buys. And finally, stage 5, self-assembly, where you take those flat-pack boxes home and build the stuff yourself.
Section 2. The Gruen Transfer.
To really understand why you fall for this every single time, we need to look at the exact moment you lose your focus inside that maze. It's an actual psychological phenomenon called the Gruen Transfer. Named after Victor Gruen, the architect who basically pioneered the first shopping malls, this is the exact split second where your brain fundamentally changes gears. Because of the intentionally confusing layout and the total lack of shortcuts, your original intention, like, hey, I'm just here to buy a lamp, completely dissolves. Your brain just gets exhausted from trying to map the space, so it shifts from executing a specific mission to a state of slack-jawed exploratory impulse browsing. You forget why you came, and you just start looking at everything. Section 3. Tricking the Brain.
Once they successfully break your focus, IKEA stops selling mere wood and fabric, and they begin executing something called environmental priming. They don't just line up chairs on a sterile metal shelf. No way. They build full fake apartments. There are real books on the shelves, real plates on the dining tables. When you walk through these staged lives, you aren't just looking at a couch. Your brain easily pictures you actually living in that space. You start feeling like the furniture already belongs to you. You're basically buying the feeling of a cozy Sunday morning, and that massively increases your emotional attachment and your willingness to buy.
But here's the catch. Walking for an hour makes you tired, and hunger is actually the #1 reason people cut a shopping trip short. While standard retail just lets you get hungry and leave, IKEA's strategy intercepts this perfectly with a restaurant sitting right smack in the middle of the maze. But it's not just about giving you calories. Those incredibly cheap Swedish meatballs and $1 hot dogs act as profound psychological trust signals. Your brain subconsciously assumes, wow, if this meal is such an amazing deal, the furniture must be an amazing deal too. You eat, your trust is reinforced, and you're completely refreshed to tackle the second half of the maze. Refreshed and refueled, you descend into the dense, low-ceiling marketplace. And this area expertly exploits a cognitive bias called anchoring. Think about it. By the time you reach the marketplace, you've probably already committed to buying a $500 bed or a $300 sofa up in the showroom, because your brain is now anchored to that large $500 expense. Throwing a $5 scented candle, a $3 spatula, or yes, a giant plush shark into your cart feels like you're spending absolutely nothing. It practically stops registering as a cost, which generates a massive share of IKEA's hidden profit.
Section 4. The IKEA Effect.
Let's move to the final stage, because this brilliant psychological trap actually concludes right on your living room floor. It's so documented, it's literally named after them, the IKEA Effect. Behavioral researchers found that people place a significantly higher value on items they assemble themselves. So when you spend 3 frustrating hours sweating over wooden pegs and a tiny Allen wrench, you are actually building personal pride into that bookshelf. You really worked for it. This emotional investment slashes IKEA's labor and shipping costs, sure, but it also drastically reduces product return rates, simply because you are deeply attached to what you've built.
Section 5. The illusion of immunity.
So now you know all the secrets, right? You know about the maze, the meatballs, the anchoring. But does knowing this actually save you? Let's pivot to a deeper academic critique for a moment. There's a fascinating insight from advertising executive Russell Howcroft, taken from an academic analysis of an Australian TV show that's actually named The Gruen Transfer. The show features ad executives exposing their own industry tricks to the public. Howcroft says the ad business must treat the consumer as someone who is bright and intelligent. The advertising industry actively wants to expose its tricks to you. But why? Why on earth would the magician show you how the illusion works?
Well, the crucial point researchers make here is that when advertisers expose their secrets, it is actually a highly calculated defense mechanism. Pulling back the curtain treats you as a savvy insider, but in doing so, it shifts the ethical blame entirely onto you. If you know exactly how the maze works and you still buy the shark, well, that's your fault, not theirs. Furthermore, it relies on affective facts. These are visceral, gut emotions that completely bypass your rational deliberation. It effectively protects the advertising industry's power while making you feel like you're the one in control.
As creative director Todd Sampson brilliantly states in that same academic study, you can't address an irrational behavior using rational processing. The data clearly shows that advertisers know rational facts simply do not override our visceral reactions. Even if you completely understand the Gruen transfer, and even if you know those meatballs are just a stress signal, it doesn't grant you immunity. The smell of the food and the cozy feeling of that primed living room bypass your logic and hit your emotions directly.
Which leaves us with this really powerful thought from our research dossier. The maze was never a flaw in the system. The maze was always the system. So, the next time you walk through those big blue and yellow doors, armed with all your new savvy insider knowledge, I challenge you to ask yourself, does knowing the trap actually help you escape it? Or is the engineered environment around us just that powerful?
If IKEA's maze surprised you, just wait until you see what we're unpacking next. We're going to look at the incredibly subtle psychology behind Apple's pricing. The number on their price tag is absolutely not random. It is deliberately designed to change exactly how your brain feels about spending money. That explainer is up next, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. See you then.